good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. So,
Indeed, it's a beautiful Thursday morning right here in the Federal Capital Territory. And I can say that because yesterday, no one understood what was happening with the weather. But the sun is brightened out this morning. I'm welcome, Yusuf.
It's a pleasant morning on this side of the divide. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Ayam Akinde. Good morning and welcome to the 5th of October, a Thursday morning.
Yeah, so we're going to go right ahead and take you through some of the daily. So don't worry, we'll bring you some of the matters that also transpired yesterday and look ahead in terms of what may likely play out today. Let's start with Vanguard. Well, you know, this minimum wage matter has been on for a while, and I know that we did speak to Labour and their members for a while now as well on this matter. But look at the way Vanguard reflects here today. States split over FG's 35,000 naira wage awards to federal workers. You may wonder why or what could have informed the split. But look at the first of the riders here. We'll key into FG's templates. Enugu, Edo, Ondo, Ekiti. And then Kebbi, Delta, Oyo, Adamawa, others to negotiate with workers. FG can't dictate to us what to pay Niger government. So there you go. Look, I don't think this is going to be strange to anyone because it's not the first time you have heard, look, it's a federal system. The government may decide to pay federal workers a certain wage. When it does come to the states, look, we decide what to pay. It's about cutting our coat according to our cloth. So if they say, look, we don't earn as much, how do we sustain this wage? So that's always been the argument. And sometimes they just wonder, should they move it away from the exclusive list, or do we just make it, look, you could decide whatever you want. But remember, in that particular clause, the last of which we highlighted yesterday, Labour highlighted as well. I said, look, this will be, did they say it's what? What's that word they use? To go to court with if they renege on these promises. And you ask yourself, so is this already alarm bells ringing about what to expect after 30 days?
I don't think so, though. But it'll be interesting to see what eventually happens with that argument until the minimum wage is removed from the exclusive list. The states are bound by the Constitution of Nigeria, and not just the state, the governors who swore to uphold the Constitution of the country are bound by whatever, because in that committee, they are also represented. The decision to reach a minimum wage is not taken behind the backs of the governors. They are represented on that committee, so there is no way they can say, oh, we didn't know. There's consideration given for what it is that states can earn. And I think also the variations of what happens from one state to the other and from one region to the other. We know that it is more expensive to live in some cities than some other cities. But what Labour has argued over the years is that there must be a minimum, that regardless of where you live in this country, if you work and you are, in paid employment, there must be a minimum that is guaranteed that you earn. State governments can then say, look, well, we will increase according to, and we've seen a few states who have gone ahead to say, yeah, this is the national minimum, but we will give our workers a little more. This is the minimum in our state. So I don't think that to start singing the same old song. The song is stale now. I think that by now they should change. If they're not going to do it from the Constitution, then that means they should spell.
Some of them are new governors. So if new governors are singing old songs.
Sing old songs. So, please sing new songs.
maybe songs. Part of the stanza might have changed because, remember, they also argued previously, look, these federal workers are a fraction of the entirety of workers that we have to deal with. So why should we focus a huge percentage of resources on this minute aspect of federal workers? So that argument also subsists.
They don't pay, state governments don't pay federal workers. Are they crying on behalf of the federal government?
Oh, these are workers. If they are federal workers, this will be state workers. So if they are paying state workers, it's the typology of federal workers.
You will have a conversation with labor in your state. Ask yourself, how efficient are these workers in our states? Are they productive? Are they adding value to what it is that we bring? I mean, if you have a bloated workforce, for instance, have these conversations and be governor. Take the tough decision. Did they ask you to? Did they ask you to go and rub their heads there?
Well,
they asked you to take tough decisions. That's what they asked you to do.
Well, I think it will be very interesting because, after all, they are required to put up their best. So if they give them exams and they don't pass those exams, even the civil service rule also allows for exams to be taken for you to get to the next stage. So, well, it remains to be seen how the governors will go on with this one. If they're maintaining this stance, what should we then expect? Because if this is the case, will the states, labor in their states, then say, look, the agreement has been reached at the center. This is what we will do. We'll see a similar kind of argument with ASU, federal universities, state universities. And so you just wonder, but this is the big lead right here. So I guess it's something worth exploring moving forward to all of this. And look at this. Presidency, Atiku disagree over certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC. Oh dear. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I understand the former vice president is to brief today.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't think we have the time yet, do we? Do we know what time he's briefing?
Not yet.
But indeed, do stay tuned here, because we certainly will be covering that for you.
Yeah. So there you go. So it will be a lot. And just a little bit here. CJN to judges. We must rise above temptations, trials. Well, I don't know if the jury is out on that or the people. What do you see? It's not the first time he's using these particular words. I think the president of the Court of Appeal has said a similar thing too. But rising above temptations and trials, how well would you say you're doing from, armchair, wherever you are? I don't know, but that's Vanguard this morning.
Well, Daily Trust has some very interesting stories on its front page this morning, and I think my bubble just burst. Sadly, farmers, varsity students abducted in Borno, Katsina. That's the lead story on the front page. Save Taraba from bandits. Governor begs army chief. Reps ask army police to deploy personnel to Katsina. That story is on page 4 of the paper. I was just commenting to a colleague yesterday that it seems there has been a lull in stories around insecurity, and hasn't been as grievous. Yes, there have been incidences here and there, but not on the scale that we've been seeing before. But look, this is what we've just we've been seeing deaths, and we're still seeing very sad deaths, unfortunate accidents happening, and there's an example right here on the front page of Daily Trust. But the security situation seems to have subsided somewhat, particularly in the northern parts of the country, but it looks like my bubble's just been burst now. Farmers, varsity students abducted in Borno, Katsina. Stories on page 4. Oh, by the way, my colleague didn't agree with me. So
I'm not joining that.
on this issue of security. But look, just beneath the nameplate here, you have a number of other stories. Just what I was pointing to, the fact that we're still losing lives. Don't get me twisted when I say that the stories around insecurity have subsided somewhat. I'm not downplaying by any means incidences of deaths that we've still recorded, but a lot that seems to be coming to the fore now around deaths and more around safety. We're losing a lot of people unnecessarily to situations that could have been avoided. So while it is that we might be getting something right with regards to security, what attention are we paying to safety? Take a look at this story, for instance. Niger State, records 53 deaths from 6 boat mishaps in 1 month. 56 people have died in 1 month in boat mishaps. So we know what is causing them to die. We know where this is happening, and we know the period in which we've lost so many lives What are we doing about it? What is the Niger State government doing about it? Are they putting a regulatory agency into it? Are they deploying life guards? Are they giving free life jackets to boat operators? Are they, inspecting boats, looking at boats that are okay to go on water and those that are not? These are things that we can do. To be governor of a state is hard work. It's a lot of work. And when you're appointed to, do something in that state, it's not just for you to go and celebrate. It's work. So, if this is to secure lives and property and 53 people have died, I would think that by now a state of emergency should have been declared in that sector.
And sometimes when some of these things happen, the question is, probably for me, and anybody else could personalize it as well, if I were to use any of those facilities and I see that they're going to go through a certain path and I can't swim and I don't have a life jacket because they didn't provide any, they clamp, all of us like sardines into that canoe, will I join? Why should I join? Those are questions we need to ask ourselves, because we see some of this and you can't understand for the life of me why these kind of things happen. Look, there may be several explanations, but if you look at the outcome several times, it always ends up, chances are, if not over 60 or 70%, that if an accident happens, will you be safe?
People always say it can't be me, God forbid. It's not the first time now. We've been doing it. We always feel like we're immune until something happens. But beyond how people feel and how much responsibility they take for themselves, the state government has a responsibility. It's like a big brother. It has a responsibility to sometimes save the people from themselves. That's why we put barriers, we put culverts. In some instances, we put wires so that people don't cross the road. It is dangerous. People can lose their lives. These are the kinds of things, but we've not even done the basic here. Don't forget that just how many days, and this is not just in Niger State. If we're to look at boat mishaps that have happened, say, even across the country over the past 1 month, we lost doctors, the Chamberlain, scarce as they're becoming in Calabar, over the same boat mishap. So,
yeah, but yes, the state has a role to play, but I'm also saying, look, we know that
people should take responsibility.
You've seen the current circumstances. Look out for yourself.
Indeed. I agree, but where there are no other options, what happens? You also
there's other options.
Maybe your daily bread has not been
just hold on a little bit. There will always be an option. There's always an alternative.
Okay. Look at this. E-ticketing delay threatens 22 billion naira revenue on Lagos Ibadan Itakpe trains. The story is on there on page 4 as well. And just what I was thinking about hazy weather yesterday. The weather wasn't sure whether Hamatan had started or was still in rainy season.
Oh,
hazy.
How will I react?
Apparently, it wasn't just in Abuja. Hazy weather unsettles drivers, asthmatic patients in Maiduguri. That story is also right there. And look at the bottom. No, I'm not ignoring this one. Certificate Tinubu presented to INEC, not in our possession. That's according to CSU. Atiku's lawyer quiz varsity registrar. President's aide dismisses forgery allegations. Stories on page 6 of the paper. We'll leave it there for Daily Trust.
This Nigerian newspaper, which follows up on yesterday's screening of the ministerial nominees, and of course that a very unsettling event at the Senate yesterday, and that's exactly what this Nigeria focuses on. Ministerial screening, bad day for Balarabi as nominee slums revived. Senate confirms Tinubu's 3 nominees. Of course, the Senate went ahead and confirmed the nominee who slumped yesterday, regardless, saying that they had considered his exemplary CV. Journalist slumps, dies at National Assembly complex. That's another very worrying one. I wonder if this is just coming in or it also came in yesterday. That's one of our colleagues, and we commiserate with the family of journalists, at the National Assembly. Of course, if you're interested in details, you find them on page 4. Yeah, page 4 to be precise, inside this Nigerian newspaper. Let's go above the nameplate now for This one, 680,000 out-of-school children in Kaduna unacceptable. That's ascribed to the governor, Governor Sani, page 9. Now, the question is if, there's free education policy in Kaduna for primary and secondary, and there's a school feeding program, why do we still have this huge, social problem on our hands on Kaduna? This tells me that there's still a very huge challenge with insecurity in that state. And besides the problem of poverty, parents are still weary about sending their children to school because of the challenge of insecurity. That's one of the plausible, factors that could be responsible.
My own concern, would go straight to the members of the House of Assembly in the state. It's not something that is just happening on us. It's something we had known. And for the governor to be saying it now, it's not something that is just starting in, May 29? So it's been on for a little while. And there are members of the House of Assembly who have been there for more than 2 terms. And these students or these children are from their constituents. So I'm wondering, what conversations had been had, if any. There must be a committee on education in the House of Assembly. So these concerns aren't new. Why are we just... What have we done to ensure that this does not? So many questions to ask.
How do the representatives, at both the Senate and House of Reps chamber weigh in on this social problem?
Because most of the time we look at the executives, we look at the governor, and we look at the president, we look at the chairman of the local government. How about those other people who seem to just be hiding behind the heads of the tiers of government? So they have their own functions as well. They have what they call oversight functions. So have you done any oversighting?
In education, do they prioritize education besides other infrastructure challenges?
What's the report of the House Committee in Kaduna State about this over the years? We only hear of these figures from UNICEF most of the time. That's not right.
Totally unacceptable.
And don't forget that former President Obasanjo had said that if we don't put these children in school, we are brewing a whole load, an army of tyrants in the future. So I want to hope that both at the federal and state levels we are considerate of that.
Absolutely. They're susceptible to radicalism, being gangs of this same problem of banditry in the Northwest and indeed in other regions of the country. There are a few other stories on the front page. Of course, we told you earlier from other papers about gunmen kidnapping 5 female students in Katsina University. That goes to show, what we're talking about, insecurity. We're still grappling with that in Zamfara State. Here's another on our hands in Katsina. And lastly, from front page of This Nigeria, Mobad court remands Naira Marley, Sam Larry, others in prison custody for 21 days. Of course, that process has begun, so we'll see about it in the coming days, how it turns out. Let's leave it there for This Nigeria.
The Guardian newspaper has something different on its front page as well, and it's about education. Crisis looms in varsities over mass exodus of lecturers. We thought that it was only in the medical space where doctors were fleeing the country, so to speak.
There's a brain drain in the academia as well.
Exactly. Now look at the breakdown on the front page right there. A professor, his final take-home is 342,442 naira 35 kobo. And to employ a single lecturer, you have to go through 7 ministries, departments, and agencies. Interesting, right?
7.
7. All of them are listed right there on the front page. And then last month, FG approved 35% and 23% of salary increments for staff of all federal tertiary institutions. So what is going to happen to state tertiary institutions? What's going to happen to private Okay, maybe that's not the business of government, but hey, they're Nigerians.
These are some of the concerns that the president of ASU often raises with us, particularly when we have that conversation on autonomy for universities, when he argues that, look, autonomy is already contained in the laws establishing federal universities. Just implement what there is and take out all of these bottlenecks. So it's not just about, granting them financial autonomy, but allowing the universities run by themselves
autonomy as well.
Efficiently, absolutely.
Look, the question then, there are too many questions to ask, really, Bukola, too many questions to ask, because if they have both financial and administrative autonomy, can they run profitably on their own in a way that we will never have any ASU strike? Questions. Well, other stories, maybe two others. Beware of landmines. CJ and Ariwola wants new federal high court judges. Find the details of that on page 3 of the paper. Economy bites harder as subscriptions to telecom services drop. I don't even know what to make of that one, but anyway.
That's been, coming for some time. Remember one of the stories Chamberlain trailed yesterday, told us that Nigerians are going back to, 2G technology. 2G technology. So maybe they are related. But maybe you tell us what your experience is like. Are you having to return to old technology as a result of the cost of data or the cost of, other services related?
This is worth exploring.
This is new.
Yeah, It's worth exploring, but that's the story, and it's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
On to business day. Uproar in oil sector after NNPC favors MRS AA Rano again. So I guess that's why you have this uproar as business day describes it. You might want to read the story and find out will they deliberately go that way and why. So Nigerians tap 208 billion naira pension savings as job crisis worsens. So this is where we have there should be huge questions of states in terms of what they are doing to ramp up jobs, so job creation or providing an enabling environment for job creation and the likes, because yes, we see this data time and again, and incidentally, they say wonders never cease, where some states say, no, we don't agree with some of these figures, this is not exactly the same thing, and then we think, all right, if you do not agree with it, what data do you have, what do you plan with? That's why we take that time, make an effort to keep asking them as much as we can. Because if they do not have data, how do they plan? That's a big thing. So if 1,005 or 1,000 or 2,000 people play a certain road and you build it and you think it's just for 1,000 people, of course all the money is spent on that particular material. After all, it's just a matter of time. Sooner rather than later, it will crumble because the rate will be way beyond, above what it can take. Then we'll end up being penny wise, pound foolish. Is that what we want to do? So if not, then they need to develop that data. And that's why we keep saying, look, you can't politicize data, because if you do, we'll end up biting ourselves in the bum at the end of the day. And that's why you find out sometimes they want to distribute palliatives. They don't have data. They want to distribute certain things. They can't find data. Yeah, if you go ahead and give it to your crony, when the protest and strike and breaking of warehouses come, you will not be immune to it, because the real people who should get it are way more than your cronies. And so when they break into those places and do all of those things, that is what you expect naturally. So, and when you have an army of young people who are hungry and waiting and looking out for something to do, you better be careful. That's business day today.
Okay, I'm looking at a New Telegraph now. They have this for you. Why coups are spreading in Africa by U.S. Consul General. I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
We already have an idea, don't we?
Lists flooding. Is that on your list?
Flooding?
Okay.
Flooding of what?
Okay, well, I think I'm reading the story in bits now. Lists flooding, pollution, food insecurity, perpetuating power as part of continent's challenges.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So you find details on page 2 of the paper. The We have a number of other stories right there, but that's the lead story focusing on democracy. New Telegraph, again, is the paper that I'm looking at for you this morning, and that's the story right there. Niger Republic bans coking gas exports to Nigeria, others. Are you for real? I thought we were the one who exported to them. Okay.
Why would we need cooking gas from Nigeria in the first place?
I'm as bemused as you are, I'm looking for the words. You see, they're not coming out very quickly. That's because I'm also quite confused myself. But hey, don't be hasty. Page 6 will be where you might find details. Don't forget that Nigeria has a refinery, a working refinery.
Who built it? Who contributed to it?
Is that what is the problem right now?
It will be.
Yeah?
Eventually.
You have how
what
many?
What role did we play?
Well, they are not working.
What else did we build?
Your
in
neighbor
Nigeria
has
Republic?
one.
Somebody remind us.
So,
is that how we did in that country?
Page 6 is where you
Maybe
find
it will help
details.
us because they talk about smuggling of petroleum products to our neighboring countries.
Aha.
If that happens to be one of the states, so we might as well just, okay, let's save what they say they smuggle to those areas. If they haven't already.
The smugglers respect bilateral agreements. Is that part of their problem? Look at the bottom here.
Customs when you need them.
Unemployment. Nigeria's import-driven economy limiting job creation. Wow, what a major discovery. According to TED Fund, well, you find details right there. BMO's lack of industries recommends aligning intervention activities to meet changing needs, fostering entrepreneurship culture. I certainly agree with that last one. But I think enough of the talk. The question now is, how do we include it in our curriculum in such a way that from a very young age, people begin to cultivate that mindset of entrepreneurship?
That's right.
Page 3 is where you find details. You also see right there, World Bank projects 2.9% growth for Nigeria in 2023. That story is there. CGN to judges. Apply constitution, not public opinion in deciding cases. The story is on page 2 of the paper, and Senate confirms ministerial nominee who slumped during screening to others. That story is also right there. This might be good news for you. This is from the federal government. We've cleared 204,332 passport backlog.
Nice.
Okay, so if
Very
your
nice.
passport is stuck and you've not gotten it for God knows how long now, page 3 is where you might want to look, and maybe you want to follow up with the Nigerian Immigration Service as to what the status of your passport might be. But this is the update at the Minister of Internal Affairs, Abby?
Yeah.
Is Interior, beg your pardon. I'm still stuck in the 80s. That's where you find details at page 3. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
And turn next to Leadership newspaper this morning, which shows a different path, albeit, following up on our conversation with the Minister of Foreign Affairs yesterday. And this is how it renders its big story. Chicago varsity saga. We have no time to waste on trivialities. That's ascribed to the federal government, all through the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Tinubu's certificate not forged, says presidency. Of course, the senior special assistant to the president on media, on social media, I beg your pardon, was speaking yesterday, and he put up a statement on his confirmed social media handle, X to be precise, and just to quote part of what he said. In the deposition made by the Chicago State University, there was nowhere the university said the certificate presented to INEC by President Tinubu is fake. The university insisted under oath that President Tinubu graduated with honors, and even at that, replacements for lost certificates are done by vendors, not the university. So that's significant to note. And what's the implication of this? We'll be asking all of those questions on your behalf later on the program today. There are other stories that will just also command your attention. There's this one close to the bottom strip. CBN books, Obaza report causing discomfort in presidency. It's a page 7 read. So what's contained in the Obaza report? Is it a follow-up on the continuing investigation of the Apex Bank under the leadership of the suspended CBN governor? So what exactly is happening there? The federal government had clarified that, look, there's no soft landing anywhere granted to the former CBN governor on the trial, for breach of procurement policies and all of that. So what exactly is happening? This should be published so that Nigerians will understand exactly what has transpired there, and if there's any need, for any trial and punitive measures to be meted out, it should sail through.
What page did you say it is again?
Page 7.
That's exactly right.
I understand you completely, Ayo. And that's about it from the front page of Leadership newspaper.
Daily Independent has this on its front page, and it's completely different from what other papers have. But guess what? It's as concerning. Front page of Daily Independent tells stories of things that have been happening in Africa for a while. And it's a story ascribed to the U.S. Consul General. Why coups are sweeping across Africa. Find the details on the inside pages. Right beneath the picture on the front page, IOC's divestment shows indigenous firms have come of age. NCDMB says production deficit caused by lack of major investments. Well, IOC is divesting. Well, indigenous firms come of age. Well, but then I hope it is not also a way of the IOC saying we can't do business any longer in this country. And a host of other stories you'll find on the front page of the paper. A good number of them have been mentioned here already. So that's the Daily Independent this morning, and a look at the papers this morning. We're right back after now to take on some of the issues. Do stay with us.
One moment, he's reeling out his vision for the Ministry of Environment, and the next moment, he slumps during a ministerial screening exercise on Wednesday.
I have participated in various professional development programs, including the general management courses, and also I have worked directly in areas of visibility and in areas of environmental protection. Water, give me water. Water and sugar.
Members of the National Assembly security team and staff spring into action, trying to revive Mr. Balarabe Lawal, the ministerial nominee from Kaduna State. The Senate President takes charge of the situation, immediately calling for a closed-door session. Guests, staff, aides of lawmakers and journalists wait outside the Senate chamber for news about the condition of Mr. Lawal. Less than an hour later, the closed-door session ends, and we learn that efforts are ongoing to revive the nominee. Mr. Balarabe Lawal is eventually revived, and he speaks to journalists.
I'm all right now. I've been treated, and I'm all right now. It's basically exhaustion.
Back inside the Senate chamber, the screening exercise continues, and the final nominee, Mr. Ayodele Olawande, appears before the Senate and speaks on the areas he would focus on should he be confirmed and sent to oversee the Ministry of Youths.
It is time for us to go back. In as much as a politician, we can go to the roots and corners of this country to campaign. It is time for us to go back to the schools. Train them, talk to them, let them feel the government. Let them see the government and let them touch the government.
Earlier, the Senate screened Dr. Jamila Ibrahim from Kwara State. Although lawmakers agreed not to question her, she spoke briefly on new ways of engaging young people and harnessing their talents.
I hope to use my office to positively influence Nigerian youth to have a voice at the decision-making table. And when we're designing our youth development plan, we hope to bring young people to the table so we can have an all-inclusive plan that profiles a bottom-up approach in order for young Nigerians to take ownership of the youth development plan and its implementation.
The Senate proceeds to confirm the 3 nominees, despite the incomplete screening of Mr. Balarabi Lawal, who slumped midway into the exercise.
The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for the confirmation of nominees for appointment as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The 3 nominees confirmed on Wednesday will join 45 other ministers who were confirmed in August and would form part of the cabinet of President Bola Tinubu. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed, the focus, that ministerial screening and subsequent confirmation. Of course, you do know the events that played out yesterday are part of what we'll be focusing on today. So we do have 2 gentlemen, as you may have seen there, joining us this morning. Dr. Oluwole Olaomi is a Chief Consultant Surgeon and Chief of Trauma, National Trauma Center. He's here with us in the studios. Good morning, and thank you for coming.
Good morning,
Kimberly.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
I was just going to ask him immediately if he wasn't traumatized by what he saw on TV yesterday. Watching what happened.
The Chief Consultant of Chief Trauma Center get traumatized easily like that. Well, we also have Dr. Adetoye Alatishe, who is a founder of Alatishe Clinic in Ogun State, incidentally, as the Begande Oba of Ososa. He also joins us, equally concerned. And good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been a long time.
Yes, very long time indeed. And many don't know that Oba is a doctor himself, and they're wondering, oh, are people serious? But you are.
Thank you very much.
So we'll come to you as well, sir. But let's start here with Dr. Olaomi. Well, yesterday when that incident occurred, and of course there were several questions, and clearly it will appear differently to different people, but you saw it because we know the handling of that matter. By the way, if you look at the way they conducted themselves when the ministerial nominee, Mr. Abbas, slumped while members from his constituency were just trying to question him. And then when he slumped, the way I think it was, the Sergeant of Arms and several other officers in the chambers approached and tried to offer help, is that the way to go?
Well, unfortunately, we have not imbibed the spirit of basic life support in our country. Let me say that basic resuscitation will be part of the curriculum right from the primary school. And if you remember, some of us were members of Red Cross, Boys Brigade, Girl Scouts, some form of organizations in our primary and secondary school, where some of these things are taught. And you have the health sciences, the physical health educations, where these things should have been taught when we were in primary school. Basic safety measures, generally. But you find out that now these things are missing. When somebody slumps and it happened in front of you, you don't know why that has happened. The first thing is that you allow that person to lay flat. Talk to the person and be sure the person is breathing and there is pulse rate. Most of us don't know how to measure the pulse. Just holding the hand of the patient and putting your fingers, or even if you don't know, just one hand around the neck, you feel some banding. That tells you the heart is still working and blood is being pumped to the brain. And then you talk to the patient, call the patient gently, shake the patient in case, for whatever reason, he falls, and see if the patient's heart is still functioning. If the patient's heart is functioning, but the patient is not breathing, then you need to start breathing for the patient.
Now, in that video, which we see when he fell, and then they ran to him and almost lifted him up immediately, what could be the consequence of that action? Look at that.
Well, first is wrong. The people did not know what to do, because you need to lay him flat in case we don't know why he's slumped. So the first thing is that this person was talking, he walked to that place. The first thing that you should think about is that his heart has stopped somehow. And that means blood is not getting to the brain. So you lay him flat. Give him some time to recover. Let the heart go back. And then you try as much as possible to talk to him there and then. You don't need crowd. You need actually to screen that place up so that it's not everybody that wants to put their idea. You need people that know what to do.
Contrary to what they were doing here.
No, it shouldn't have been on his feet.
Yeah, I saw a lawmaker, though, attempting to do some sort of screening with his agbada, with his barbaric, as the case might be, so that, at least he had some privacy. But it seemed that beyond that, we saw an immediate attempt to lift him up, almost like you're going nowhere. That's, I think,
that is very
right?
dangerous.
Yeah.
So if somebody falls, clear the surroundings for safety for him.
Yes.
And let somebody keep people away. You need some oxygen. You need that space, not to crowd on him. And then somebody that knows what to do should attend to him there. And whatever, even if he's on the road, somebody stops the cars and move him out. When you want to move him out, you move him flat, not up.
Okay, but could you explain to us, man, why did you think, is there any rationale behind trying to gather and cover him or use the barbaric to cover him? What could be the consequence of that?
They want some privacy for him, but I don't think that is the why you cordon off a place. Cordoning is to make the place safe. It's not just that privacy. Because you may actually need to remove his shirt so that you can see his chest and do something on.
Okay. Now we've seen how not to do it. So let's come back to you and show us and tell us, look, what and how would they have approached it?
Okay. So let's assume Mr. John, who is here with me, just collapsed, and I witnessed the collapse. So, and Mr. John is somebody known to me. I don't know whether he had any illness or not before, because Nigerians keep their medical history to their hearts. That is also not helping. People should know what you're going through as much as possible to help you. So he has fallen. I'm not going to raise him up. He has fallen down. What I need to do is to let him lie flat and call him Mr. John. Mr. John is not answering me. Then I want to check whether he's breathing. I can see his chest. If his chest is moving up and down gently, I can say it's breathing. If I'm not sure, the back of my hand to his nose, I can feel some hair movements from there. I know he's breathing. Then the next thing I want to do is his heart working. Is he still pumping? So I'll put my hand on one side, just one side of his neck, and try to feel for his pulse. It's the easiest thing to do. So if that heart has stopped, that means it's the heart that stopped. It's not the breathing. So I'm going to call for help immediately and start a cardiac massage. By putting my hands, get close on to him, lock my elbows and put one hand on the other on the center of his chest and start giving him a cardiac massage. Deep and fast at the rate of 100 compressions in 1 minute. And I'm the only one, 100 compression in 1 minute. that is the rate we move.
Would that be minimal compression or not forceful compression or what?
Well, you have to lock here, and it has to be effective. It has to be on a hard surface. So it's not on a bed where you're pressing the spring and all of us are dancing cucumber. No, that will not be effective. It has to be in the center of his chest. I lock my hands and go with the heels and then go fast at the rate of 100 compressions in 1 minute. That is when it's effective. But since I'm alone, if he's breathing, I don't need to go to that. I continue to do that and check his pulse until help comes. But if he's not breathing and the heart has stopped, I'll do 30 compressions and then use something. This will not be available most on the street. Then use a handkerchief on his mouth and open his mouth by a chin lift or a jaw thrust. And then I'll breathe into his mouth. Now, if you do that, whether a male or a female, to save his life, those are the reasons for cordoning. People might slap you thinking you're kissing him. So you need somebody who knows what you're doing and to make sure that the environment is safe for you as a rescuer. Because if not, somebody is going to eat you out the neck and say you're kissing the person. And that's dangerous, even for you, because the person that is down is already down. You don't need a second person. So people need to be trained, educated, and know that that's what they need to do.
Okay, so I'm looking, thankfully, I think it's very important to state this, that despite, those who, they meant very well, the people who were in the chambers yesterday trying to help the gentleman who collapsed, the ministerial nominee who collapsed is being confirmed now. They meant well, they just didn't know the right steps to take. Thankfully, though, their actions did not end badly. He was resuscitated, and he was even able to address journalists afterwards to say he was fine. So in that circumstance, what do you think? I mean, I'm going to come back to what you've shown us now and try and go over the steps again. But what do you think could have happened, knowing that, he was lifted up, perhaps maybe even speaking at the point, because I saw them bring a chair, so maybe they wanted to put him on a chair. What do you think could have happened?
Well, we don't know his medical history, but in this circumstance, I think he possibly just had what you call a stage fright. And when he looked at people, his emotions dropped, his adrenaline surge dropped, and he suddenly collapsed.
That can also happen.
What we can cause a vasovagal spasm will have been just what has happened.
How about exhaustion?
Well, I don't know when he slept, because that's another thing. He party for the things, party all the nights. It's possible that stress is part of the cause of this, but it will also come in form of the vasovagal spasm.
People should remember that you're no Superman or Superwoman.
No, there's no Superman. Yeah, people need to rest. Politicians don't normally sleep.
So, blood sugar could have dropped?
Yeah, blood sugar is possible. He's not had a good breakfast. And people have been all over him, attending to people congratulating him overnight for his nominations, and people trying to tell him what are likely questions they might ask, about the national anthem, pick this and that. That could have stressed him.
Okay, I mean, these are all the possibilities, and thankfully, I mean, he at least he spoke to journalists, even though we understand he was still taken away in an ambulance. He still spoke to journalists to confirm that he was fine after that incident yesterday. Kabiyesi, it's good to have you on the program again with us. It's been a while. Shall we say Happy New Year's to you? I'm sure that you've had a good time. Maybe, I don't know. I see here, I mean, of course, he owns a little hospital. So maybe as chairman, he's still overseeing affairs at his, not just in Ososa, but also at his hospital there in Ogun State. How did you feel watching what happened on television yesterday?
Thank you very much once again. Remember, it was my birthday, October 1st.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that was almost how many years ago when I came for the last interview.
Happy birthday to you in arrears, Kabiyesi.
Thank you very much. I watch channels virtually every day, particularly this program. And that of yesterday at the Senate, it was so shocking that I called some of our representatives. I was calling them, but forgetting that they won't pick their phone when they are in the Senate. I was totally sure. But the bottom line of the whole thing is that Dr. Ola told me I said everything that we needed to know. All I need to add was that the nominee could have been fasting, which is very common among our people. When you go for things like that, they ask you to fast. So he could have been fasting, his blood sugar could have dropped. It's altogether a symptom, as he said, vasovagal syndrome, which will normally cause what we call syncopal attack. Anybody, any healthy person can have a syncopal attack. I've seen it severally. It happened to my mother when I went to Thanksgiving program in the church, when I became KBC. And people were rushing to raise my mom. I said, no, leave her alone. Let her just lie down like that. And in a few, why? Because I was even the one talking. And a few minutes after that, my mother got up. So the bottom line was when somebody faints like that anywhere, you let the person lie flat and probably turn the person on the side, which was what Dr. Ola told me apparently didn't say. Because sometimes there could be some vomiting coming back from the stomach, and you don't want that person to aspirate. Now, it was so shocking that I was really worried that the Senate staff were not trained in simple methods of resuscitation. Raising the guy up could have killed him. It could have just dropped. And I was really worried. So for me, it was not a good thing, but I think we need to go back to educate everybody. From primary school, as the doctor, the surgeon consultant has said, to the village people. And that's what we do here all the time, giving medical expenditure all the time. And that's one of the reasons why I also keep my practice, because that's my first love. So I need to make sure that my people are well aware, and then every now and then, every opportunity we get, we train our people in simple resuscitation, because it could save life. And it has saved life several times, especially when I'm around. My colleagues, my upper colleagues will tell you, when I'm at an engagement, when we are at an engagement, I'm always looking at everybody as a potential patient or as a potential candidate for either collapsing or something like that. And it has happened in very important occasions, and I've had to come in to save people in such conditions.
Well, if I have to come to Ososa for any celebrations, I certainly will feel very reassured knowing that if anything should happen medically, at least KBC is at hand. I think the prayer will be that nothing happens to KBC himself, because I imagine at that time, maybe we will all panic. But, you know, beyond that, I mean, you've mentioned something very, very important, which is the fact that, you know, you will have to ask how come people in the Senate, not the members themselves now, but the sergeants at arms, security personnel, you know, who should have maybe basic training and first aid, didn't quite know what to do. We've seen in...
And some of the senators are even medical
doctors, you know, which was quite surprising. We've seen one or two of them who actually say they're medical doctors. So you have to ask, you know, precisely how come, maybe they were wearing things, or maybe the doctors were not there.
Dr. Ibrahim was there. Maybe she must have left. Or she was after her screening.
Possibly. So, I mean, a number of things could have happened. But I know in public places, like in the chambers, for instance, we see in some, I don't know how many places in Nigeria have them, defibrillators. Yeah, I think that's what they're called. Just in case, because as you said, it could have been worse. It might not have been exhaustion. It might not have been, it could have been a heart attack. Anything could have happened. You now have to begin to ask, how serious are we in actually administering things like first aid should such a thing happen, knowing the kind of people, knowing the age grade of people that we have going to those types of institutions? Have we really paid serious attention? I mean, to be a senator, I think at least you must be 35 upwards or thereabouts, since the law was changed. But we don't have any senator who's 35. Maybe in the House of Representatives, senators are usually from 40 upward, thereabouts. So knowing that people who go to the Senate are people who are, you know, of a certain age grade and above, do you think that we've really paid attention? And maybe I'm being partial to senators, but let's start from them, because this is where this incident happened. That we've really paid attention to the sort of first aid, to the sort of medical emergencies that could happen, and the sort of first aid that should be administered should such an incident happen.
we need to ask ourselves this question. It's been spoken about all the time that people should do medical fitness examination. It is a tradition. Any doctor will tell you people have to do medical fitness, particularly going into offices. And you have to be able to show your medical fitness certificate. We do it every time. Companies around this area, even when they're going to employ our people, I don't allow them to employ people just like that. We do medical fitness for everybody. It is interesting to know that political office holders don't do medical fitness, don't submit. It is not even part of the requirements, whereas it should be, because you have to be fit to occupy such position. I know the offices that I will not go into. If you give me, I won't take governorship office for any amount per second. I won't become a president for any amount per second, because I know the stress that these people go through. I've worked with governors before. I've sat down next to them, and I'm wondering, you see swollen legs because these people don't sleep. They sit all night, all day. And I assume that even in the Senate and all these places, it is the same. So we need to have a tradition where it is part of it. It is compulsory for people to have medical fitness. When I sit in meetings, like I said the other time, there was an incident when one of my high chiefs had a heart attack, and he thought it was an arrow from one of his enemies. And I had to call my nurse. We took his blood pressure. It was 210, 130. 210 over 130. We admitted him straight away. He got better. He's still alive today. I said, what about your enemies, the arrows and all that stuff? And we usually joke about it. We've seen people who go to the hospital, a chemist, to buy drugs, and those owners of pharmacies don't ask them basic medical questions. People take oral hypoglycemics and then they go into hypoglycemic shock. And we don't have the problem of trying to resuscitate them. Sometimes, unfortunately, you lose such people, because when you are hypoglycemic through oral drugs, it's so difficult to resuscitate you. If you get hypoglycemic by using insulin, it's a simple thing as just giving you glucose, and probably you come around. So we need to talk about medical fitness. And this is why I'm so passionate about it. Because of the level of our exposure in Nigeria, it must be compulsory for everybody to be under that national health insurance program. So now, when everybody is covered, then you know you have to go to the hospital rather than go to chemists or trying to treat yourself directly. And I believe, and I must mention it, that I think this is the time. And the reason why I'm saying that is that because by the advent of Mohammed Ali Pate, whom I've worked with very well, who can leave a potential job in America to come back here to be Minister of Health, I think within the next 2 years, we are going to have to overcome some of these things. The problem of having our people to be on national health insurance, even at the rural area, even in the villages, these are issues that are very, very important. Losing a life is not worth any amount at all. So we need to do something about it. And the way we can go about it is it will cascade down from top to the bottom by issue of principles and what we need to do at the rural area. You can imagine in my area here, I cover close to 4 towns. There are no medical doctors except me. No medical doctors. The problem, and because of my love for my people, I make it a point of duty on a daily basis to talk to people about health, bring professionals from outside our area to come and do medical expenditure here, almost on a monthly basis.
Kabisi, well, Ayo and Buki, I don't know if you were sipping tea while Dr. Lamy was just doing that demonstration on this, but remember, don't take away your iPad or whatever you have if any of such thing happens around you. So remember, he says, look, you have to lock it here and here. I tried when I was looking at you, but also remember, it's not this way, but you have to ensure that the pressure from your shoulder comes all the way to your hands, and you lock your fingers here so that the tips of your fingers don't scratch in. So something like this.
Yes, at the center of the chest of the patient.
At the center.
But 100?
Yes.
That's a
so
lot.
you have to be fit too. Mm. And that's why you alone should not just take on that task. Immediately, once you assure your patient needs resuscitation, you call for help. And
is his hand rightly positioned?
It's just going to be
someone like this, right?
Yeah, somewhere there. And that's yes. Then your pressure is from your shoulder. This must
this way.
Yes, but you now do it at the rate of 100 compressions in 1 minute.
Try it again, James. Let's see.
Let's go to Lagos.
Let's test your fitness level this morning.
Go ahead.
Well, just one question that I would have loved to ask Chemelin and Malkwe of our medical doctors, specialists in there. You know, one of the issues that was raised, you know, on the floor of the Senate is the call for sugar for the individual there. I've checked, you know, one of what Kabiyesi said earlier, syncopal attack. One of the main causes of it is extreme stress and loss of blood supply to the brain. So I'm wondering, that call for that first aid, sugar and the rest of them, how salient is that? I also heard that, you know, the Kabiyesi mentioning simple glucose that would help someone to be resuscitated. What would be that call for? Kabiyesi, maybe I should ask you, what could that call for sugar mean? How injurious or helpful is it? That's for Kabiyesi.
That person concerned is a diabetic patient and he takes insulin daily. I happen to know some of my patients that are diabetic. So if for whatever reason he has not eaten, because taking insulin means that you have eaten. But if for whatever reason you took overdose of insulin, you could have what we call hypoglycemic situation, in which case that kind of person faints. Giving the person glucose immediately is the first thing if you know that the person is diabetic, and it can never be injurious. The worst that will happen is that his level of glucose will go up, and then he will go back and take his drug. But it is not safe for people who are using oral hypoglycemics. That's what I'm saying. And it is wrong for anybody to be on the medication of oral hypoglycemic is drugs, tablets that brings down your glucose. It is wrong for anybody to take them without the supervision of medical doctors, because they have their own side effects, and you need to do tests regularly, at least twice in a day.
Well, that's instructive, because as the other medical doctor had observed rightly earlier on, we don't know the medical history of Mr. Balarabe. You know, but Kabiyesi, you touched on something earlier on that I would have loved, you know, us, you know, to expound on amid this conversation, which is the strain of the work of politically exposed persons. Besides Mr. Balarabe, you know, the former EFCC boss had slumped during a public event at the presidential villa in 2021. We had a former minister who also slumped at a public event. As a matter of fact, the papers also reported today that a journalist at the National Assembly slumped and died. We don't know who, we don't know the identity of the journalist now. Talk us through, you know, the nature of the work of politically exposed persons and the lifestyle that they should adopt in order to avoid this, you know, unpleasant eventualities amid the kind of stress that they go through.
Well, a number of people who are exposed and are not just, when I say exposed, are aware of their medical status, do take care of themselves. But a number of political office holders are under so much pressure that even when they want to take a rest, they cannot take a rest. When I was in politics, I remember we had a marathon meeting where everybody in the hall slept at one time or the other, including myself, including the deputy governor, and the only person who did not sleep or doze was the governor. At the end or towards the tail end of the meeting, we had to be asking him if he is a witch or a wizard, because he did not even get up to go and wee. And beyond that, most political office holders are under one kind of pressure or the other, apart from family, constituency, and then having to make having to make up with whatever you are promised to do in the office. So it is just not done. I heard somebody saying that when he goes to the office, he closes at 4. He makes sure everybody closes at 4 p.m. But not with our people. You sometimes go to their office, you find them working till wee hours. It is wrong. And that is why some of them have to pay with their health. So we have to insist on that. And then in any case, like I said, it is important for us to put people who are medically fit in the office. It is, when I hear people who are in office and they are disabled or what, it's probably they are not in executive offices. People who are in the executive offices or in the Senate, National Assembly, they are seriously under stress. And I believe that we need to make sure that they know about this and they are well aware and take care of themselves.
Solami, give us your concluding thoughts on this matter, because look, this is, people may think it's trivial, but you're talking about saving lives here, and you're involved in training several people across different government agencies and private sector as well. So talk to us before you go.
Well, this will be with us. It's with us. It's not witchcraft, because many people think when somebody falls and dies, it's witchcraft. We have not handled resuscitation well in this country. We need concerted effort, formal, well-planned, to introduce children what to do in cases of emergency. And like medicine takes 7 years, so it's not something you start today and then you get there tomorrow. No, it has to start from primary school, letting people know that illness, collapse, deaths are real. They're not caused by witchcraft, they're caused by sicknesses. When there's sickness or illness, you can't temporize and keep the person alive until a professional comes or the person can get professional treatment. We need to introduce into the curriculum of students. You don't need to do Earth Sciences as WAEC exams, but you need to have some basic knowledge about this. We all do sports. People collapse and die during sports because they strain their hearts. So we need to put all these facilities in place. Primary school, secondary school, clubs, societies, village settings. So it's not just sitting down every time having meetings. We should have things that will help us. If need be, the KBSC has talked about medical certificate of fitness. People should know that medical certificate of fitness is not a punishment, not to give you the job, but it's for everyone to know that you are fit or you have this particular illness so that they can start taking care of it. It's not something to deny you of your job.
All right. How things can be interpreted, you know. People.
Well, those are the things we need to start to change our orientation. We don't need to discriminate against people. They are people. They have right to life, to work, and to be treated well.
So you have no qualms that the nominee was confirmed yesterday, despite the fact that he slumped?
Yeah, well, he slumped there, but one of those people that have been confirmed before, does that mean that they don't have an ailment or something? It was just unfortunate to have slumped yesterday for whatever reason. So, but for him too, I think this is a wake-up call for him to go and do a comprehensive medical checkup and look at his life, change his lifestyle, and whatever is the problem, so he start to treat it. That should not deny him of political office.
So moving forward, it won't be a bad idea if those nominees will get medical certificates of fitness, because the job they are going to undertake is massive.
They should do it, not to get it.
Should do it.
Yes.
All right.
It's for you.
So at least the reason why lawmakers, governors should ensure that medical practitioners across the country are paid, well paid on time, because look, emergencies could happen to anyone. You never really know how some of those things should happen. And then above all else, National Assembly, they need to ensure that their staff are trained for these kind of scenarios. Life could have been lost there. So you can imagine it was in public glare. Ensure that the right things are done. Well, we have to thank you for coming on. Dr. Oluwole Olami is the Chief Consultant Surgeon, and Chief of Trauma, the National Trauma Center. We've also had Dr. Adetoye Alatishe, who is the founder of Alatishe Clinic in Ogun State. That's Kabiyesi Begone Oba of Ososha. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on today.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll be back in a moment and talk about the screening proper. Don't go away.
EDVES is solving a lot of problems for us. It is centralizing all the information.
EDVES has helped us concerning the preparation of results. EDVES has also helped us to have our database.
The fact that we can analyze data, so I know children performance according to gender. I can access my financial information, who has paid, who hasn't paid.
I would recommend EDVES to schools, big or small schools.
Use EDVES today.
What are you waiting for? Use EDVES. Come on now.
Visit www.edves.net/free demo to book a demo.
Every healthy family needs the right amount of energy to start your day. But sourcing for breakfast with a splendid blend of nutritious multigrains, big wahala. With the new Kellogg's Gold Grain cereal, you don't have to go through all of that. So now, your mornings can look like this.
Go, 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 Gold Grains. Love the goodness of its multigrains.
Grain Sets Go! Also available in banana flavor.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700 Furniture.
Well, thank you for remaining with us. As you have seen there, Deni Ikonu, a lecturer, journalist, and researcher, joins us this morning to discuss the screening proper of the nominees yesterday. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you very much.
Well, you may want to, first of all, talk about the process.
Yes, please.
You are not a doctor.
No,
you are a journalist.
No,
by the way, it's also unfortunate to know that Adeniyi Adeyemi, a journalist with...
died. That's unfortunate. I think it also speaks to the issues of to make provisions for journalists. Many journalists have needs that are not catered to. And I think it's key for that to be, an instructive point where provisions are made in terms of welfare and specifically medical care, which is important for them. Journalists don't have holidays. They work every day of the week, 35 days a year, so it means it's important to give them the needful care.
Perhaps also to mention that the words from the former president of the Senate and the majority leader in the current assembly speaks volumes of their knowledge of the individual involved here.
That's true.
And you know, being a thoroughbred and almost chasing everything. The Kabiyesi was talking about the stress that politicians go through, not knowing the extent to which journalists themselves have to go to get the jobs done.
Yeah, the reality is I think we really need to conscientize people regarding health. Do not forget first that we have a lot of medical professionals moving out of the country. So those that would have formed the crop of those sensitizing and giving information regarding this in different places as their corporate social responsibility services are no more in the country. So there's a mindset of money for service, money for value delivered. I think in every workplace, even if you've got 5 members of staff, it's key for them to know the basics, particularly when it comes to resuscitating persons. Then I observed also at the assembly, they don't have water available because all the while the Senate president was calling for water and sugar. And at the same time, it shows that such welfare should have certain persons available to do it. Then I didn't see anywhere you've got first aid kit. It's also very important.
I was going to head there.
So if you go to
response.
Yes, please. So some things should have actually helped at that point. Then you could, according to what the doctor said, everyone was crowded. You need to give space when somebody faints so that there will be enough oxygen. But I think we've taken this as a lesson, and it's important to move forward from there.
All right, let's go to the nitty-gritty. The process you saw,
yes,
the lady from Kwara,
yes,
the man from Lagos, and the one from Kaduna. What do you make of, you know, the questioning, the process of the screening?
Well, I'd like to say first that the persons that were nominated by the president, from the resume that I read about and the video that I saw, are qualified to hold that positions. Let me say that first, so we don't dispute over if they are qualified or not. But let's understand that this
qualified based on the paper,
based
or
on the
qualified
paper,
on performance.
Based on the paper, we are looking at the paper.
Based on qualification.
The qualification first, because we'd have to give them time to be in the office before we do the second level assessment.
But it's another blind screening, so to speak, because we're only assuming that they're coming to fill the offices of Minister of Youth, Minister of State for Youth.
Yes, and of course the other ministry. I think that should be environment or something, or power, but environment. Now, let's just, for now, look at, for instance, if anybody gets employed based on what you brought, that is why there is room for you to grow at respective workplaces, because employment is your qualifications, promotion is for your performances. So let's say right now, they have actually scaled the first hurdle of employment, which has to do with the qualifications. So promotion, which would often be an assessment of, that comes from us, and of course from the person who appointed them, will be coming later. Don't forget that the former president actually gave the sack to 2 ministers, Nanono and the former one who was in the Ministry of Power, Nanono Agriculture, because they didn't perform well. They had the qualifications. But there's something that I'd like lawmakers to understand. Those ministers are not to serve in their constituency. They're to serve the Nigerian people. And it is ridiculous to have lawmakers say, is a very good person, attended the same secondary school as my son. Those persons are going to serve in those capacities and give proper service to Nigerians. So when lawmakers who should understand the implications of poor performance of ministers are saying because people come from their own constituency, they should leave, I think it's really, really out of what they should do. And I think Nigerians should understand that is why we have a lot of problems regarding the kind of services they render. Now, if your father belonged maybe in a university and you happen to want to do your viva, the presence of your father there wouldn't prevent you from analyzing whatever it is you presented in terms of your thesis. So for these persons, they've denied Nigerians first the opportunity of having a sneak peek into what their performances will look like. And I have to say that in terms of the responses to question, for instance, the man from Kaduna was lumped. I really would have heard much more about the capacity that he has, because they said he's an astute administrator. He was the former secretary to the government of Kaduna State. He had also, he's held very good positions. Don't forget, he has attended Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, ASCON. I wanted questions regarding those areas of expertise. He's traveled abroad. You also understand, a level of law. I really need questions, because we've had people with qualifications without the corresponding capacity
in those areas, please.
But Mr. Kuno, is that not exactly the reason? You know, these gaps that you have identified and the possibility of non-performance in the future, are those not the reasons that portfolios should be attached to, you know, the resume of nominees before they head to screening?
Absolutely. You're very apt on that. And I think that the reason governance is a continuum is to look at the things that have not been done well. For instance, if you check the young woman from Kwara State, she has worked with government, she's worked with some non-governmental organizations, even international bodies. It means, therefore, that apart from being a medical doctor by training, she has actually gone through certain levels of trainings to gain expertise on maybe community service, developmental projects. And I think that they should really understand that being a medical doctor or having worked or, you know, having done a lot of social work doesn't make you automatically capable of handling the youths of this time. And I think it is also key that for you to have such connection and provide solution, you really must be connected to youth. I lecture at a university and I teach plenty of Nigerian youths. Even when I find myself in the classroom and I lecture, I evolve very advantageous psychological processes so that I can bring them in and make them part of what I do. So if you looked at the other person that is supposed to be maybe a minister of state, later on for youth, I think also that his initiative was not properly spelled out when the conversation started regarding, okay, let him take a question or two. The answers or the response he gave to how he's going to actually create solutions did not actually convince me. He didn't say much about it. He was told to go. I'm not in doubt of his paper qualification, but I'm in doubt of being able to translate that into feasible, positive, impactful result that we hope to see. So I think it is key for us to actually query the lawmaker, because primarily they're supposed to provide to us as Nigerians who voted them to office to be able to allow those that will occupy exalted offices to show that they can deliver. Number one, they came there with certain blueprints. You would have allowed them to at least take 5 times. After all, we pay them to do that. If you have to extend till 8 p.m., extend till 8 p.m. and get this job done. That's my business for them. As much as I will not query the qualifications of those people, sincerely, the process, very faulty, I have to say that.
Talking about that process,
yes, please.
A good number of people, just as Bukola has said, have thought, look, why don't we have them with the portfolios? But that doesn't happen. Perhaps also to reckon that, I think it was former President Obasanjo, or was it Jonathan, who had to shuffle ministries. So, okay, you were in sports, okay, go to labor.
Yeah.
Or you were in finance, go to budget and planning, and, you know, just hypothesizing now. Could that be the reason why those portfolios are not being attached?
I think that's a reflection of what results in poor competence. Or it's a reflection of the fact that you don't really know the people that should be in those offices. And I'm talking about those who shuffled. Obasanjo did. Okonjo-Iweala was in finance and was moved to interior, I believe, at that point in time. So the shuffling was very correct, as rightly referenced. I think that people have capacities and we've got areas of strength. And if something is said to be your areas of strength, you should be allowed to function in that office. Why do we have what is called underemployment? It is because your capacity is used less than the value you're able to give. I think it is very important for lawmakers, maybe those in the opposition party, to push for a possibility of a legislation that makes it compulsory.
Going to the next question that I want to ask about that same thing.
Yes, please.
What template would you recommend?
Okay.
Or a lineup would you recommend that before we will have the screening?
Yes, please.
These are the things that are going to happen at the screening, not just bow, take a bow and go.
Okay, in the first place, when you have people, just as they've already said, I think the issue of the man who slumped has become very important. And let me tell you here, nobody gives you employment in Lagos State, for instance, without your health certificate. You've got to get one so that you're certified okay to work.
That's as civil servant or not as political appointee?
As civil servant. So if government that employs you as civil servant describes that as a prerequisite, then I think anybody who takes up political appointment should also do so. After all, everybody is serving as Nigerians, they're not foreigners. But this is it. The first thing that I recommend is everybody who is to get into any political office, particularly the ministerial positions, should have requisite qualifications to go into that, which must reflect in their qualifications. Number two, when they get there, I think they should make that particular process very formal. The issue of saying the good people of this, it was practically a joke yesterday, especially when I think Jimo, I think Barrister Jimo or whatever, the one that owned a defunct newspaper, when he spoke from Ondo, when he spoke, it was practically just making eulogies without any seriousness attached to it. And I think that that is not the proper process. So first, all jokes must be aside apart from your qualifications. Secondly, everybody must answer at least 3 questions, 5 minutes each of those questions. And after those questions, you can actually ask another question for 3 minutes each. It must be a thorough process. If a democracy is modeled after thriving democracies, I think there are lessons for us to learn regarding people who occupy offices.
I was actually, my apologies.
2 things.
Okay, please.
Just one.
Yes, please.
I was actually expecting that you would tell us, okay, these are the things that, because, for instance, the question Bukola asked about portfolio. Yeah. Thankfully, it seemed that this particular one, they came with the portfolios, and that's why the questions were perhaps specific. Excuse me, particularly to the Minister of State for Youth and the rest of them. So we know that they come with their qualifications.
That's one.
We know that they have to be screened.
Yes, please.
We have been talking about this even from, I think, the previous administration.
Yeah.
That when you nominate people, they should come with a portfolio so that we can ask them target-specific questions.
Fantastic. I think that to include in what must be done is to have permanent secretaries in this ministry be at the screening. While you're talking about lawmakers, I think it is key because the person that will be closest to work with in those ministries will be PEMSEX. And the years of expertise will make that person be able to question them, even if it is not on core administrative issues, but on the capacity of those people to function in those offices. So when you have, for instance, 3 lawmakers from an area, and the lawmakers are into maybe industrialization, maybe in chemical engineering, and the person is going to maybe the Ministry of Power, or maybe the Ministry of Housing, you should have somebody from that ministry who will be able to ask you that, for instance, this is the ministry that you will likely occupy. Can you tell us what is the percentile of the houses that have been built in the past 3 years? What is the difficulty in being able to get land? Because if we don't do these things, oftentimes it's going to be deja vu. The reason the former president had to sack 2 ministers was simply because of this. As a matter of fact, everybody who occupies an office should be able to interpret the vision of the person who has appointed you, because part of why the former president sacked Nanono was he was veering off track of the president's vision for the Ministry of Agriculture.
But isn't it sufficient? My apologies, I know you want to come in. Isn't it sufficient at least that the National Assembly, that's one of the issues we were discussing before we came on air, that don't we have National Assembly members who are medical doctors? So isn't it sufficient that some of the people who are in the National Assembly, that's why it's the Committee of the Whole, isn't it sufficient that some of them are professionals in the areas to which some of these people are being?
Well, let's say this, that you may not actually have every profession represented in the lawmakers under 9 persons. So that could be, we should take cognizance of that. But you see, when you are representing the people, you are representing the people of your constituency in all areas. It means that a little knowledge here, a little knowledge here. Bearing in mind that you normally have your briefing ahead of the screening that takes place, should make you prepare. And that is why these lawmakers have special advisor on this and that. The lawyer should be able first to tell you, Your Excellency, sir, the person coming is going to be in this area. This is the person's area of capacity. The likely question should be from A, B, and C. And I think that's quite it up. And I also want us to understand that that screening didn't have up to the 1/3 of lawmakers who should be there. Because if you're talking about every screening, you cannot have excuses of not being present when those that be representing the country in ministerial capacity are to come to the floor. So we also have to know those who were not present to participate in that screening, because they have to give account of being absent at a screening for ministerial positions for the people of Nigeria, and of course because these people are representing those in this country. So that is also another conversation here.
Well, I wonder if you sense this certain level of fatigue in this particular screening process, because, the main job has been done with the 45 ministers that have already been screened and inaugurated, and, the lawmakers just decided to fulfill all righteousness, so to speak, with this particular screening. That's on the one hand.
Yes,
on the other hand, Ayo talked earlier on about, reshuffling that had been done by past administrations.
Yes,
don't you think we should interrogate that process to be sure that, that was done out of political consideration rather than any performance driven reasons? And, besides that as well, does it produce efficiency, so to speak, in ministry and in the performance of ministers?
Let me say this first. To the first question regarding the lethargy that was observed, I think it is key for us to help Nigerians understand that lawmakers are not doing us favors. They are doing us that particular thing that should make us see them as responsible to us. And that's why I talked about the number of those present for the screening. If you have one person to be screened, everybody should be there. Because everybody gets sent the brief. The brief gets sent to them for them to be able to what? To be present and participate in the process. As a matter of fact, you may not even ask questions, but you make notes as a point of reminder if that particular ministerial nominee didn't deliver based on what the person has said. There are lots of retrospections that help to balance perspectives and conversations, especially at that level. When you're present at a place and you do not actually say a word, at least your presence here should allow you make notes to enable you refer to those notes that you said this, but you're going away from that. In terms of the second part of the question, I think that it's a reflection of not even understanding if the person that gets into office is able to deliver. Because if you bring somebody into an office, you believe that this person is going to do what he or she has been appointed to do. But again, it also speaks to the understanding of the person who appoints them. Because you could want somebody in a particular role, you said it could either be for politics and not because of doing the job. And you're correct on that. Maybe you appointed somebody and your political party members are saying this position is juicy. Do not forget that every position, ministerial or not, has its own perks and privileges. It could be that they've been speaking to the person and say, no, you can't do this. Look at what is happening. And maybe after the tenure had expired or had rounded off, you have to replace the person, not because of incompetence. For instance, I didn't see reason why Konjo Iweala was taken away from the ministry. Not because she was incompetent, obviously for political favors, or the fact that the man feels this woman may be feeling that she's the all and all. Let me tell her I'm still the one in charge and move away from there. And immediately somebody with capacity is taken away from a particular position, it is obvious that the person is going to be affected. Look at the Minister of Education the last time. I remember very clearly that the former Minister of Education, Adamu, had said at the beginning of what actually resulted in the strike actions that were repeated, that the monies owed the lecturers will be paid within that week. He lied, and he lied several times. I have record of what he said.
Well, so many issues to raise about this, Mr. Kuno, because, I mean, you're a journalist and researcher, so the questions are going to be endless for you.
Yes, but
at this time, we have to really close.
But I need to just say Happy Teachers Day to everybody in my community. If I'm being...
We should be the ones telling you Happy
Well, let me tell others.
Adeniyi Kuno is a lecturer, journalist, and researcher, and he joined us this morning. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the privilege of coming here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
So we're back right after now to take on another issue. Do stay with us.
Every healthy family needs the right amount of energy to start your day, but sourcing for breakfast with a splendid blend of nutritious multigrains, big wahala. With the new Kellogg's Gold Grain cereal, you don't have to go through all of that. So now, your mornings can look like this.
Go, 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 Gold Grains. Love the goodness of its multigrains. Grain sets go!
Also available in banana flavor.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
The ceremonial courtroom of the Supreme Court is filled to capacity as friends and relatives of the 23 newly appointed judges of the Federal High Court witness their swearing-in ceremony. Judges from the Federal High Court, members of the Outer Bar, traditional rulers and other top government officials are also in attendance.
Of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that I will not allow my personal interest to influence my official.
The ceremony starts with the judges taking their oath of office, one after the other.
Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, who administered the oath of office, charges the judges to apply constitutional provisions in deciding the cases before them.
Several patriotic attacks are regularly opened and heaped on the judiciary. It is, however, crystal clear that public opinion, no matter how serious or weighty it might be, cannot override or supersede the Constitution of the country, which we apply in deciding each case before the court.
He reminds them that the public is watching and assessing them. Therefore, they must rise above all temptations.
Appointment to the bench is not an appointment to wealth, vainglory, dishonest disposition, or ostentatious lifestyle through corrupt acquaintances. The searchlight of the National Judicial Council beams brightly on all judicial officers across the country. The National Judicial Council should never, either by omission or commission, be mistaken for a toothless bulldog. It can bark fiercely and as well bite deeply and aggressively too. Our radar is sophisticated enough to detect every form of corruption and wrongdoing by judicial officers.
In the coming days, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court is expected to assign each of the newly sworn-in judges to the various divisions of the court across the country. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Thank you for staying with us. Dr. Monday Bani joins us, as you've seen on the welcoming slide. He is former chairman, section of Public Interest and Development Spittle of the NBA. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. I am Buki.
It would seem like the current CGN is in cahoot of sorts with the former CGN, Mohammed Belgore, when he said, because the judiciary is misunderstood, Nigerians do not see that it is the one arm of government that is actually serving the people. Those who hold the judiciary as part of the Nigerian problem either do not know or have refused to pay attention to the fact that even the judiciary is subject to the laws of the land, the ground norm being the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Tailing what the CGN said there right now, that the noise of social media and all those other things have attempted in recent years to put the judiciary in some position or image that isn't it. But then, looking at facts, looking at precedents, one would wonder whether or not there is need for judicial education, or that the judiciary is actually serving itself and other people.
The position of thing is that what he's trying to say is that the judiciary is trying its best. And the circumstances under which the judiciary operates in Nigeria is very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating in the sense that most of the basic things they require in order for them to be very efficient are not there. I was in court yesterday, Court of Appeal to be precise, in Lagos. I woke up by 4 because, if you want to go to through Third Mainland Bridge, you have to wake up very early. I did. Getting to the court, my matter was called. And my lord reminded me that it is for application. I said, no, we don't have any pending application. It is for adoption of our briefs. He said, no. They are overworked. Because if he takes me now, within 3 months, he has to give judgment. Looking at the number of cases they have already adjourned for judgment, there are too many. When I persisted, my lord was telling me that 2 of the judges of the Court of Appeal are in the mortuary. He told me that. They're overworked. How can you have 2,000 cases for Court of Appeal alone in Lagos, and you have only 2 panels? Lagos is a commercial city. Why is it that we are not having different panels, maybe up to 4 or 6 panels in Lagos? So he was crying. They're overburdened. You go to Supreme Court, the same thing. So the circumstances under which they operate is so bad. So they are doing the little they can in order to serve, but they are not getting probably positive reaction from the people because people are seeing them in bad light, but they don't have that right to speak out, to tell you what they are also undergoing in terms of suffering, funding, and some other interferences. So that's the issue.
But besides the pressure that the judiciary is going through, which is appreciated, is this continuous reference to public opinion, which we also saw during the presidential election petition court during the delivery of the ruling by one of the judges. I imagine that every other professional or profession goes through one form of pressure or the other. I imagine if as broadcasters, we're distracted by pressure, we'll not deliver, on the job. Why do you think the judiciary continuously makes reference to this challenge of public opinion? No,
you see, we are now under a new era, the social media era, and technology. Unlike previous times that these things can be probably spoken in your bedroom and nobody hears. Everyone now, has a handle. So whatever he feels like, he can say it. And judiciary is in the eye of the storm because, one, we are in political era, season, where most of the cases now are being tried by the judiciary. Are you following me? So they should expect those comments. They should expect reactions from people. We are not in 20th century, this is 21st century, where the social media, different from the normal media and all that, so they should expect all that. That's the judiciary. But we as judiciary should expect all that. But what he's trying to say that, look, we are not going to be bound by your opinion or sentiment. We need to apply the law, and we have laws. So I don't expect them to apply sentiment, in reaching their decision. It is the law of the land. There are enactments, there are procedures. We have procedural rules, we have substantive laws. So what they will apply is the law. And what he was only, saying the obvious. He wasn't saying anything that is different. But the point is that I must also advise them to expect certain reaction from the people. The fundamental human right of freedom of expression is there, and they have to express themselves. But in expressing themselves, they must also be careful not to in any way malign the judiciary. That is what he's trying to say.
So in maligning the judiciary, talking about that, some of these issues that people have with the judiciary is what they sometimes consider, wait, how can this be? For instance, the case involving the governor of Imo State today, there are those who cannot fathom in their heads how someone who placed third or fourth in a particular election is now, pronounced by the court as having come first. A situation of the former president of the Senate who initially said he wasn't interested, and then his party, went to court and a judgment came, and now he is a substantive senator. Those are examples of cases that people are wondering, how can these things be? It also goes back to the judiciary. And I think you have also complained about it at some point, that it should be the ballot box that will determine who becomes whatever in this country, and not the judiciary. But of late, it has been the judiciary. So when you say they are overworked and all of it, is it because they are overworked that these things are happening?
It's a very, this is a technical question. And I don't know whether I will give you a technical answer.
Please, let's avoid all that.
The point is that our substantive law have allowed the judiciary to actually intervene in our electoral process as being the final, arbiter. So if there are irregularities at the polling unit and you have a grievance against the electoral outcome, you have a right to approach the court. So they will be the final to determine, unfortunately. But the point is that we're overburdening them, and we are saying, can we create an electoral system in which, the fairness of that process will be guaranteed, so that you determine who becomes a ruler, at the polling unit, so that we don't overburden the judiciary now having the final say, and at the end, people will become more, aggrieved, that the judicial system itself have not dispensed justice. Now, issue of they are human beings still. Blood and water runs, in them. They are not angels. That, again, we must emphasize. So the issue of error can also occur. You must understand it. Unless we're thinking that these judges are gods, they are gods in heaven who do not make any mistake. As long as they are human beings, they are not infallible. They are not infallible. So it is important we know that. So if you mention the Uzodima's case and some other this and that, some people feel that judgment, all those judgments, that they don't feel that it is the right judgment. But if you look at if you read the substantive cases, you will see the reasons also given why those things were, reached at that point in time.
Well,
so it's important.
A similar
human beings.
A similar thing is brewing now with this certificate saga, because a good number of people are going to be wondering how is it going to,
be determined. Yes.
On the one hand is the fact that from what we know, you may want to educate us further, that the Supreme Court rarely takes on new evidence to decide on a matter unless it is compelling. On the other hand, there are those who are wondering whether or not this judgment, as you have said, may not go in the direction of a technicality. First of all, do you see this, what we have, as being admissible at the Supreme Court?
The matter is presently pending before the Supreme Court. So whatever discussion I will make over this, I have to be a bit careful until they determine it. But looking at the facts surrounding it, the issue of admissibility of fresh evidence, by the appellate court is very rare, especially if that particular evidence was available to you while you were initiating the process. The Supreme Court would never, even the appellate court, other court of appeal, would not admit any fresh evidence, because their job is to review the decision of the court below and not to now evaluate any evidence. They don't take any evidence. But there are special circumstances under which fresh evidence can be admitted by the court of appeal, by the appellate court. And that ground is that maybe at the time you filed the case, that evidence was not available.
But this is
Yes.
This was not available at the time the case
Now,
was
when
filed.
was he
This
initiated? When was he initiated for the availability of this document? This will be taken into consideration. Did you initiate this process after the final decision of the court of below? If you did, why didn't you probably start earlier in order to get it? It wasn't available. So the court will take all that in, because facts differ.
Okay.
And they decide their case based on, and also issue of admissibility of that fresh evidence is very critical. You must convince, and whoever is bringing it will be opposed by the other party. So the court now exercises what's called discretionary power in either admitting or not allowing that fresh evidence to come in.
But where are you in all of the discrepancies identified in what was released by Chicago State University and what was submitted to INEC?
Yeah, my opinion will be made known fully after the Supreme Court would have taken a decision, a position. But the point is this, under our law, if you present what you call forged document to INEC, under Section 137, if you remember, it is a ground for disqualification. It is a ground for disqualification, but you must prove forgery because now he has entered into the realm of crime. So it is issue of proof beyond reasonable doubt. So the evidence, the burden of proof lies squarely on the petitioner. It's a very heavy burden.
Okay. Chamberlain.
Mr. Biden, that is going to be very interesting, that section 137J, grounds of disqualification. But you start, at some point, you mentioned technicalities. But in what circumstances do you think technicalities can come in again on this particular matter? Because to a lot of people, they think it's as clear as black and white.
It's not very easy. Because as the CJN has already pointed out, the thing that will be applied is going to be law. And not sentiment, So if you are saying that it is forged, the point first and foremost is who says it's forged. The best evidence will only come from the school where that certificate is domiciled or came from. And so what did they say concerning that certificate, So they will look at the facts. What is the university saying? Is the university saying pointedly that that certificate that has been submitted to INEC didn't come from them, that it is not their certificate, and that there is no other source where it can come from? Yeah, because I'm hearing, we are hearing this issue that there is a particular body that can also issue any law certificate from the university. Does the university say that they don't have such a body? So if the university has not expressly pronounced that certificate forged, then it will be very difficult for anyone to say that it's forged. So the onus lies on the petitioner now, or the appellant, to say, look, I have been able to prove that this certificate conclusively is forged, and the university has said so. But the university has left a lot of gaps.
But Mr. Bani,
yes.
If the university says the certificate that we usually have is this, maybe type A, and then if they then say, look, the type B or whichever type is in your INEC or whatever you call it, we don't know about that. This is the one we know. What other expressly speaking, which other way can it be expressly put other than telling you, well, this is the one we have? So we don't know about any other one other than ours.
Sorry, that if a certificate get lost, that one, that they don't have a copy of it, and then there is this particular story that other bodies can also issue on their behalf. I don't know whether it came from the university or from, from the respondent, because I heard that story that if you lose your certificate from that university, you have a right to apply to another body that we give you that is affiliated to the university. I heard that story. So those line of argument is something that will be brought before the court. Because as I said earlier, the most important thing is for let the university say, this certificate you are presented is forged. That has to come from the university. If the university does not say so...
Let me hypothesize a bit.
Say it again.
What if the two circumstances here, just playing out as you were speaking, does the petitioner have to go to court with whatever they have from wherever they get it and ask the court or the school, this particular document, is this from you? And if that happens and the school says, this is not ours, the one we issue is this one, but this other one is not ours. And assuming we got that one from the country here, and the school has disowned that one, would it be tenable in the court here that the school has said they don't know about this one that we brought from here to them?
The legal team of the appellant is really doing their work now. And I can assure you,
that the legal team of the respondent are also looking at the situation dispassionately in order to know what to respond, when these things come up before the Supreme Court. These things will be presented. The facts are very clean, and they will be interested in looking at the facts in order to now persuade the Supreme Court to reach a particular decision. So whatever we do here, without having the full facts of the case, may not be able to help even our fellow citizens. Yes.
I asked the question based on what you said, because you said there was a narrative that came through that if you lose your document, you can apply to another body. Now that's why I'm saying, look, assuming without considering that is the case, if that happens, and then we go with the one, quote unquote, that may have been issued by another body, in quotes, to the school, and the school says, we don't know about that one. What else will the school be required to do? Wouldn't that be tantamount to saying, we don't know about any other thing apart from the one we issue?
But this is speculative. Now, the school has not said so, Chamberlain. As I said earlier, the best evidence will come from the school, but the school has to be the one to speak to whatever, our president has presented before INEC, because the law says it's only forged document presented to INEC that can be a disqualifying factor based on forgery. Document forged. So as I said earlier, the proof of that forged document lies squarely on the appellant. And he can get that particular evidence from the school. If the school has not said so, it will become very difficult for anyone to now call that document forged. It's going to be a very onerous task.
Has already said, spoken about their own kind of certificate.
Who has spoken about their own certificate? You mean the school?
Yeah.
I didn't get the answer. I didn't get the question.
About the certificate they issue.
Now,
the school already spoke about the ones that they issue. It's clear. Everybody is out there.
That is what we're saying, Chamberlain. The court will look at all the facts of the case. Because my thinking before, when Atiku was pursuing this, was whether he was looking at the fact whether this our president did not attend that university. The university has come up to own up and say this person was our student. He graduated from our university in 1979. He passed through the Department of Accountancy, and we issued a certificate, a degree certificate. In other words, you cannot disqualify the president now on grounds of education because he passed through a university and got a degree. Now, the only issue now is the certificate he presented. Was it from the school? Because I hear it was diploma that he presented. If he presented a diploma, did the school give him diploma certificate? That is the issue. And the Supreme Court will decide all that based upon whatever Atiku and his legal team will present before the Supreme Court. They will look at it dispassionately and be sure that what they will apply is law. You hear the CJN say it. We are not going to be bound by sentiment all over the social media. We will look at the state of the law and apply what the law of the land has said. And we have to hold them tenaciously to it that all what will be applied is law. So then let's not dissipate energy of whatever is going to happen. We trust the Supreme Court, men and women that are learned, people that have integrity, people that we know over time have had experience from the lowest court to Supreme Court. Before you become a judge of the Supreme Court, it is not a day's job. Experience over years. So we must trust them to dispense justice, to all the parties that will appear before them. That is my statement about this, my brother.
Even though you also said that the lawyers, the judges themselves, they are not infallible. Whether that will play out or not, I guess we'll have to see, wait and see.
That's correct.
Dr. Monday Ubani is former chairman, section of public interest and development Spittle at the NBA. Thank you again for your time this morning.
Thank you, my brother. Ayo, what we want to emphasize is that let's help the judiciary. Issue of litigants going to court for years, 10 years, 20 years, the matters are not resolved. The governors, the president of the country, the attorney general, we must all wake up. Lawyers are complaining. They go to court, they don't get justice.
Well, since we know that the judges cannot do it themselves, maybe NBA needs to pay some money to Channels Television so we have a weekly. Well, some of your own comments here on this program, Henry Awunonu, yours is coming first, and it says about the handling of Lawal's slump at the Senate. This incident, as shown in the video, has once again revealed the poor depth of knowledge of handling medical emergencies in the general population, though it's expected that the National Assembly would have had a better medical emergency response system. Let the National Assembly commence trainings on basic life support for all the members and staff, beginning first with the sergeants at arms. Let all the public places, including churches, mosques, markets, high-capacity buses and trains, be equipped with defibrillators that can restart an arrested heart. There should be a multi-stakeholder involvement in deepening health education in our nation, especially periodic medical checkups. May we do better next time?
Well, we see your mail, Eka Dixon, Victor Owo, or Shinawa Kinsley. Thank you very much for sending them. We do appreciate them. We'll take more of your mails next time. I'm afraid we're totally out of time. That will be all on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Ayamakinde. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. From this end, don't forget to go for that fitness check if you just haven't. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I am Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or